Hi, welcome to a new video. Today we're here for a very exciting video. I'm going to be doing a spring TBR. I have decided that at least for this year, I'm going to be doing quarterly TBRs and quarterly wrap-ups. And so we're going to be doing it by seasons. So yeah, let's start. Let's get directly into it. Let's start with transfers from last seasonal TBR. I have two books for this, which I didn't have time to read during winter, and I still want to read them, and I think they fit for spring either way. So I went ahead and transferred them right over to this TBR, and that is Fire by Kristin Cashore, or Cashore, and The Near Witch by V.E. Shwab. They're both kind of nature inspired, so Fire it's a high fantasy in the same world as Graceling. But this one, I think the main character comes from a small place and goes on kind of a quest to a bigger kingdom, something like that. And I think they have to travel the seas. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm quite curious to find out. Maybe I'm completely wrong. And the other one is this main character lives in a small town, and suddenly one day a boy appears, and after this boy appears, children start to go missing. But there has always been kind of legend of a near witch that lives near this place and takes away children, and we just follow her as after children start disappearing again. Moving on, I have a few books that appeared on my recent book haul, and those are A Far Wilder Magic by Allison, Saft, A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy, Lynn. So this one is about a mythical hunt and a kind of an unlikely team of these two characters come together to enter this hunt, but I think the pair are drawn together as they uncover dark magic that could be the key to winning this hunt if they survive that long. It's romance, nature, magic. I mean, what else could I want? This one is about a magical kind of tea competition to find the kingdom's greatest master of ancient and magical art of tea making. These two sound amazing. Next, we have by Ash, Oak and Thorn, which is a kid's little book about three little creatures that come alive in spring, but I feel like one of them is kind of getting old and fading or something similar, and so they go on a quest to try and save one of their companions. And I think they have to go through a city which is called the Hive. It's going to be a perilous journey to get to an ancient oak where they can find out how to save this little creature. I then have another one that was on my recent book haul, and that is The Thorns Remain by J.J.A. Harwood, which is a fae romance, historical fae romance fantasy. It's set right after World War I, and it's about humans struggling with that, and also fae not wanting to be forgotten. So as you can see, a lot of fantasy romance, but not the steamy sort of fantasy romance, the more cozy version of it, which I think has become one of my favorite genres. Last physical book before we move on to Kindle books, I have Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Montgomery, which I assume everyone knows about. It's about in case you don't, I will tell you either way. It's about a orphan that gets adopted by a brother and a sister, and they actually wanted a boy to work on their at their farm, but they got Anne, and Anne has a very unique vision of the world. All she wants, I think, it's a family and friends, and so we just follow her along on her adventures. And I'm really excited to get to this one. Are you starting to see the pile over here? Moving on to Kindle books, I have a few. I mean, I do make relatively big TBRs. I normally read at least 4 books a month, from 4 to 6 normally. And I already have 7 here, so almost 2 months worth of reading. But I actually have 6 on my Kindle, plus 3 on my Audible. So I feel like this is ambitious. But obviously I want to have options because I'm quite a mood reader. When I mean I'm literally 100% a mood reader. I will not read a book if I don't want to. And so let's get into that. Here I have a few more like cozy fantasies, and especially cozy fantasy romance, starting with Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which, as the title indicates, it's about a woman that has only half a soul. So I think she got tricked by Fae or something when she was a child, and she got left with just half a soul, and she's now a young woman entering into society. This is a historical fiction in London, I think, and she just wants her cousin / best friend to find a good match, but she ends up maybe finding her own good match. I'm excited to read that. We also have, keeping with the same theme, Hex Appeal by Kate Johnson. Can you see that? This one is about a woman. She lives in this big manor house with a whole bunch of other witches, and their new landlord comes into the picture. He just discovered that all of them haven't paid rent since the 1700s. And is not happy about that. And so the main character, Essie, is trying to figure out this whole thing, but I assume there's a romance between the two because this is fantasy romance. So I'm excited for that. I feel like I'm saying that to literally every book. We then have, obviously, because I think it's the 3rd TBR that I have put this on, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Everyone has read this by now, but I still haven't. And so that is why it's on my TBR. I want to read it. And in case you have been living under a rock, no shame. I mean, I wish I could. This is about an orc that decides to hang up her sword and move to a small town to open up a coffee shop. Because I think in this world, only gnomes know about coffee, so she wants to introduce the rest of the world to coffee. And it's just following her and her struggles while trying to open up and keep this coffee shop open. And I'm very excited to see all of the shenanigans that go on. I have another 2 that have been on my TBR for a while, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, which is the 2nd series of the kind of Caraval world by Stephanie Garber. I read the first trilogy, so I would be able to read this book and the 2nd and this series. And I was quite disappointed by the first trilogy. And so now I'm a bit overwhelmed and scared of getting into this one because I was hoping to enjoy, and I enjoyed the world, but I was hoping to enjoy it more because this one sounds so good, but I just didn't enjoy it. And so I'm scared that I won't enjoy these ones because I really want to. Like, it sounds amazing. I really want to love them. But if I didn't love the first trilogy, maybe I won't love this. Hopefully, I'll just get to it in the next 3 months. We'll see. But getting to the last two, we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I'm pretty sure I have the whole trilogy. And I know it's the sort of thing, when I start the first one, I'm going to read the three probably immediately, because that's what happens with like mystery stuff. And I've put this in like 2 TBRs, but because I'm in such a fantasy kick recently, I haven't picked this up. And I just really want to know what all the fuss is about. So another one that hopefully I'll get to it in the next 3 months. And finally, one that I'm very excited about is So This Is Ever After by F.T. Lukens. This is a fantasy romance again. It's about, I think, 2 best friends. One becomes the ruler of a country, and it's very similar to the Simon Snow story. It follows the story of a guy after he has saved the world. He was the chosen one, or for some reason he ended up being the hero. He saves the world, and now what the hell is going to be happening? In this case, this guy has gotten the throne, he secured the throne, but he's waiting for the rightful heir to the throne to take it over from him. But I think this heir dies, and so it's just following his life when he's trying to figure out what to do. And also his trusty best friend sidekick that is a magician. Is it magician? Wizard? Magician or wizard. Some sort of person that can wield magic. But it's also about dealing with trauma. And it's also a romance. So obviously very excited for that. And now finally moving on to the last 3 books on my Audible. I have The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy by Bannen, which is about 2 people that hate each other but actually end up becoming pen pals unknowingly, and then the shenanigans of figuring out that you are in love with your enemy without knowing. You then have The Lord of Stariel by J.J.A. Lancaster, which I don't know anything about and should probably find out. It's about a magical estate that has just lost its lord, and there are 3 possible heirs. None of them are really up for the job, but we follow one of the heirs, which is a girl that definitely does not want the throne. But I'm pretty sure she's going to have to take over. And there's also Faye involved, which she just wants to live her life and not care about anything else. But apparently she will have to, because she'll probably be on the throne. And finally, The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, which is kind of modern day story, kind of urban fantasy, where there was magic in the world, but New York has been closed off from magic. And the magicians that lived in New York City, if they try to leave, they will lose their magic, but if they stay, they still have it, but they can't really use it because it's against the rules, against the law. And it follows a thief, it follows many magicians. It's a very well-known story, finally getting to, and I'm quite excited to read, and I don't want to know too much about, because I'm just curious to, be immersed in I just want to be immersed in the world and figure out the story from there. And that is it. Those are all of the books I want to read in spring. I can see my battery is dying on my camera and on my phone, so I'm gonna sign off here. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave in the comments which will be the books you're going to be reading in the next few months or in the next month. And I hope to see you in the next one.